Hey everyone, this is Amr,
This is Elle.
and this is another episode of Hell to Pay. So I guess today my story will be one of the masterminds, if you will. I love when the news calls people a mastermind. It is a very funny term,
It's
but
definitely one of those filler words, like for when you just need to use a different adjective because you don't want to repeat what you used in the last sentence.
well, it's also like if you want to up the tempo of a story, you don't want to just say this person was involved. You need to give them more responsibility, more. It's a very Murdoch thing, it's always capital letters, mastermind, terror plot, mastermind,
Yeah.
I mean, in this case, I do believe that she was very much involved, but the story that I'm bringing today is for Samantha Lewthwaite, also known as the White Widow, who was one of the women who was involved with in the July 7th, bombings in London. She was the wife of the head guy, Jermaine Lindsay, and one of the guys who detonated himself. I think his was the third attack. This isn't so much about July 7th, though the figures in the story, so much as the person of Samantha Lewthwaite and the type of person who converts as an adult to any religion, but in this case Islam. But an adult convert is one of the most disturbing type of person there is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. I vaguely remember her, but I don't know a lot about her. So this is exciting for me. But yeah, there is that. I mean, there sort of is that history, I guess, in the UK with what was the name? Shamima Begum. I mean, yeah, she wasn't. Yeah, she wasn't Anglo background, but yeah, there was something at the same time as all these dudes are, running off to fight. There was certainly a lot of women who were captivated by the movement as well, right?
Yeah. But I think there's something very interestingly unique about white Anglos converting to Islam. It's have you seen Four Lions?
I have not, no.
Oh, you have to watch Four Lions. It's one of my favorite movies. It's about these four guys who are trying to do a terrorist bombing in the UK. And it's three British brown Muslims and one white guy, Barry, who changes his name to Azam al-Brittani. And he's always arguing with them from the perspective of them not being sufficient Muslims. Very classic type of guy. And I do think there's something also to your point about Shamima Begum. I mean, not to overgeneralize, but when I think of Britain, I always think of that viral TikTok video or whatever it was that was you Shia, innit? You Shia, bruv. You Shia, innit? And it's the British Muslims are weirdly conservative in ways that aren't elsewhere. I don't know what it is. I really don't understand. And hopefully we can get some guests on who can explain the phenomenon of British Muslims. But there seems to be a bigger pot or a bigger pool of hardliners, radical Sunni types there than there is elsewhere.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Is that from the subcontinental community, or is it just kind of okay, cool, interesting.
But yeah, in this case, first I want to clarify who Samantha Lewthwaite is and then her involvement in 7/7 and what she's doing, what she's up to now. So Samantha was born to parents Andrew and Elizabeth Lewthwaite in Banbridge, County Down in Northern Ireland in 1983, where nothing of note was happening, I assume, and a very calm childhood.
Yeah, religious harmony was paramount.
Yeah. She lived in a model of no sectarianism, a utopia of man, some are calling it. Apparently, her dad, Andrew, was a British soldier in the 9th, 12th Royal Lancers, and he met her mom while they were stationed in Northern Ireland. I don't think she grew up there. I think she was born there and her early childhood was there, but they moved to some town in the UK, in the UK proper, England. So I don't know how much the effect of the Troubles would have had on her, though I assume if you're the child of a father who serves in the British Army in the Troubles, you're absorbing a lot of certain ideas about unionism and the empire and so forth.
I imagine so, very much so.
Yeah. She was an average student. In 94, her parents divorced. She was 11 at the time. And she finds support among neighbors, in particular a neighbor family that are Muslim. At 17 years old, she converts to Islam, taking the name Sharafiya, which, by the way, just of all of our listeners, again, I need to stress out, you do not need to change your name when you convert, okay? This is one of the things that annoys me the most about these people. Like, you could still be called Brian or Frank or Michael or Laura or whatever. Like, you could call, the name, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If you're a Muslim, it doesn't matter what your name is. But these people love to change their names. It's always like the most, like, they choose names that no one actually names themselves, you know? Like, Sharafia, fine, whatever, but like, it is a very archaic name.
Yeah. Is that like a Muhammad Ali phenomenon or something? That, like, is it a very West, I'm guessing, well, like, yeah, it's kind of by definition is a Western thing, right?
Yeah. I mean, the Nation of Islam famously, they wouldn't change your name, but they would just remove your last name. So it'd be like Malcolm X, for example.
X, yeah.
But speaking of Malcolm X, when he left the nation, that's when he changed his name to Haj Malik Shabazz, which, like, again, like, there's no need to change your name. I guess, I mean, I don't know. With black people in America, there's a whole, like, history as to why you want to, like, you know, reclaim an identity or whatever. But, like, for the most part, like, you could be a Brian and a Muslim. The naming doesn't matter. I guess it's just makes you feel more connected, I suppose. The other thing a lot of these people love to do is to call themselves reverts. And that's always tickled me because...
Yeah,
basically, like, the assumption is that, like, the default state of humanity is Islam. And if you grew up not a Muslim, then you've, like, deviated from your birth, right? And you revert, I'm doing air quotes with my fingers right now. You revert back to your original state when you convert to Islam as an adult, which is hilarious. But again, please don't do that. It's annoying. Yeah, this episode, I'll have a lot of my thoughts on these things. I think also, like, to the credit of the Muslim families, like, Muslim families in the UK are mostly immigrant families, right? So they have, like, a stronger support networks usually and closer, tighter knit communities, which I assume for someone who's, like, in their teens and seeing their parents divorce might have an appeal, you know? And especially if her dad is, like, a British soldier, converting to Islam is a great way to rebel too.
Yeah.
So yeah, if any white chicks want to hook up with me to piss off their unbelievably racist dad, you know, I will do it. I will do it for duty.
All in the name of anti-imperialism. That
yes.
is how much of a soldier you are.
Yeah, I serve the cause. So she goes to SOAS to study religion and politics, but drops out without obtaining a degree. Now, as I understand, SOAS is a very good school in the UK, with, like, some sort of, like, Trotskyist leftist orientation among the student body and the academics. Though I have also heard from some friends of mine that SOAS, like SOAS is also a fertile recruiting tool for, like, MI6, especially, like, for their Arabist sort of wing, if you will. A lot of people end up in intelligence after SOAS, as I understand. So I'm not sure how true that is, but I can imagine academia is a great way to recruit certain types of intelligence officers. So
that's the School of Oriental and African Studies at the University of London.
Yes.
Yeah.
So she meets Jermaine Lindsay online. And their first date, I guess if you call it a date, is to meet in person at a Stop the War rally in Hyde Park in 2002. And that was, I believe, after 9/11 to protest Britain's involvement first in Afghanistan, and then later in Iraq, a sort of anti-war movement. But first of all, they didn't succeed. Britain got involved in both wars. But it's also had a big, like, umbrella sort of organization, a big tent organization. A lot of like, all sorts of people lommed on to the Stop the War, which is, like, fair, but it involved all sorts of cranks. I do believe George Galloway was part of that too, which, you know, George, if you want to come on the podcast, you're always welcome.
My esteemed Twitter follower, George Galloway.
Yeah, well, you know, I have Mark Andreessen following me, so really, who's winning, okay?
You got the biggest cranium on earth.
Mark, can I knock on your head like it's a melon? I want to just a little tap as a treat.
Hey, just going back quickly. So I'm guessing, is Jermaine Lindsay, like, Caribbean background or something? And was he a convert as well?
Yes and yes. He also converts to Islam. He was born in Jamaica, but he grew up in the UK. And I believe he converted to Islam with his mother. His mother converted first, and then he converted. He was also married, sort of kind of married to a woman before, Samantha, in an Islamic ceremony, but not a legal ceremony. And they divorced after 8 days because Jermaine ends up marrying Samantha. And this is, like, not uncommon because for a certain type of conservative Muslim, marriage is essentially, it's like you marry to date instead of date to marry, you know? because like obviously like you wouldn't have sex otherwise, etc. But yes, he's a Jamaican convert who grew up in the UK. They meet in this rally, and they get married in October of 2002. So it was a very quick turnaround. Lewthwaite's parents refused to attend the ceremony because they disapprove of her conversion to Islam, and they also disapprove of her choice of husband. Which, you know, if you're a British soldier in Northern Ireland, I'm sure you have some very progressive ideas about black people. So let me see here. Yeah, they have their first child, a son, in spring of '04, and in '05, she's pregnant with her second child, which ends up being a daughter, while at the same time both Lindsay and Lewthwaite begin associating with certain radical figures like Muhammad Sadiq Khan. And again, much like Lewthwaite, Jermaine Lindsay comes from an interesting family, you know, immigrants, mom converts to Islam, racial minority in Britain, but it's I think for a certain type of immigrant, I mean, this doesn't apply to Lewthwaite because she's white, but for a certain type of immigrant, Islam is a great way to like re-anchor yourself in some sort of community. Because whatever else, like Muslim communities tend to be quite well anchored. Like, you know, if you go to the mosque on a Friday, you'll get to know like the names and faces of people, and that's very tempting for people who are alienated and atomized, as we see in today's society.
Yeah, and especially after, was it the 70s, like with all the Brixton riots against the Caribbean community, and yeah, like really heavy-handed policing and stuff like that. So I can imagine that the alienation was pretty prime for, you know, probably for his family around that time.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And so as they associate with Muhammad Sadiq Khan, Khan ends up organizing a group of 4 men, including himself, to organize what would become the 7/7 attacks, to attack London's transit systems during rush hour. Jermaine Lindsay is one of the attackers. His was train number 311 departing London King Cross on the Piccadilly line. And then the other 3 attacks were, I believe, train number 216 on the Circle line on Edgware Road, which if you're attacking Empire, why would you attack Edgware Road? That's where all the Arabs are. I mean, you know, that's a bit of a friendly fire there, pal. Shehzad Tanweer detonated himself on 204 on the Circle line, and Hasib Hussein detonated himself on the number 30 double-decker bus at Tavistock Square. And these were like timed to come like within seconds of one another. And apparently, Lewthwaite claimed total ignorance about her husband's activities. Now, here's where things get interesting. She calls the hotline that was set up after the attacks for victims of the attack or whatever to report her husband being missing 6 days after the attacks. Now, I assume that I can be an annoying person to people, but I would hope that if I was missing for 6 days, my partner would call someone by day 2. Maybe day 3 if I've pissed them off, but like 6 days, that's a really long time.
Yeah. You kind of got enough time to have like, been
burn
sort of
the
lost.
papers.
Yeah. Or just like to, you know, be lost at a night out at the pub and then have a, you know, stinking sleep in the next day. And then I think any time after that, you got to get on the blower.
Yeah. And if you, blower, that's hilarious. We're not going to get into that. But I'm sure this, as we'll see later, based on how her life went, I'm sure this 6 days involved like a lot of papers being burnt and hard drives being placed in microwaves. I assume they had hard drives back then. I don't know. '05 is a bit distant to me.
I feel like Britain's always had hard drives.
Yeah.
The nonce culture is...
Yeah, VAR check, decision, nonce. So she calls 6 days later and said that, he's missing, and then they're like, oh, he was part of the attack. Apparently she was shocked. She reacted with shock, at least. Information about her as the wife of one of the attackers is leaked to a Murdoch paper. I believe the what's it called?
The News of the World. Yeah, that was now defunct. Yeah.
Murdoch, another friend of the show, a great citizen of Australia.
That's right, Australia's finest.
Yeah. So apparently her house is firebombed. She's taken into protective custody with her kids. In September '05, Lewthwaite sells her life to the other Murdoch publication, The Sun. It's like the story of her life for 30 grand UK pound sterling, which If you're innocent, why would you sell, like, what's interesting about your story? I'm just the wife of the guy who killed, like, who did a bombing. I don't know, man. Sounds boring. I don't want to read that. Apparently, the police were satisfied with her explanations that she wasn't involved in this, and then she disappears. She leaves protective custody and just completely disappears. This is where things get interesting. Firstly, she reappears in the late 2000s with a third child, but no dad on the birth certificate. There's rumors that she's living in Scotland or Northern England. She marries a guy named Habib Saleh Ghani, who, in classic jihadi fashion, takes the nom de guerre Abu Osama al-Pakistani, also known as Abu Musa Bombasa. Which, you know, say what you will, but these guys have some cool names. See, this is the thing. If you're going to change your name, you need to change your name to something sick like that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
Pakistani, like, has he ever even been to, like, Lahore or anything?
probably not. Though, I believe he does end up in Pakistan later on, you know, part of the transnational jihadi networks that were, like, you know, really kicking off at the time in the 2000s and 2010s. She has lived... I wish Sipo was here for this, because Lewthwaite has lived in Johannesburg for some time between 2008 and 2011, and had a fourth child, a daughter, in a private clinic in Johannesburg in 2010. So, you know... he might have run into her. We don't know.
Yeah, there might be views.
Yeah, so she, in 2011, December 2011, Kenyan police arrest a guy named Jermaine Grant, also known as Ali Muhammad Ibrahim. They charge him with possessing bomb-making materials and planning to commit a felony during the interrogations, which I'm sure followed all the conventions of the Human Rights Code and so forth.
Yeah. Geneva approved.
Yeah, very, very polite, very respectful interrogations. Grant revealed that he was part of a cell of Al-Shabaab stationed in Mombasa, planning attacks on the city, and he revealed that the cell was led by a white woman, later confirmed to be Lewthwaite. So at this point, she's glommed on to Al-Shabaab. In February 2012, Kenyan police issue an arrest warrant against Samantha Lewthwaite for her links to Al-Shabaab, and they also indicate on the warrant that she's traveling under a fake South African passport using the alias Natalie Faye Webb. So again, interesting connections to South Africa here. I'm very curious because, like, there's not really any evidence, but, you know, her connections with South Africa are very interesting. I wonder if the South African intelligence were involved with this.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those things that, like, the more you dig, the more, like, nothing makes sense. So I don't know. I try to just accept the simplest explanations, but again, very, very messy stuff. Like, she was in Joburg for, like, 2 years, and no one was like, oh, this is the lady who you know, was the wife of the guy who did the 7/7s. Like, no one really. I don't understand. Apparently, her and her second husband, Abu Musa Mombasa, I'm going to call him that for the rest of the episode just because it's a funny name. They were tracked to a rental property in Mombasa, and during a March 2012 raid, police raid the property and seize evidence including AK-47 ammunition, a laptop, and a photo of Lewthwaite. And the fingerprints that were taken on the scene were sent to Scotland Yard, who confirmed a match with Samantha Lewthwaite. In July of 2012, grenade attack occurred on a place called Jericho's Bar in Mombasa. Al-Shabaab claimed credit for that attack. This was during a Euro 2012 match between Italy and England, by the way, which, considering how shit those teams were in 2012, maybe a grenade was a better alternative to watching a match. I don't know.
Yeah, who won? I mean, she's still English at heart, so...
I think this was the game that Balotelli scored the 2 goals and did that celebration where he just, like, flexes his muscle.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, don't ask why I remember specific goals like that. It's just, you know... Some of us like train, some of us like football. It's fine. So, yeah, apparently Lewthwaite was seen around the bar hours before the attack. 3 killed and 25 injured. Apparently, one of the witnesses claimed that he saw a white woman wearing a hijab, and in his like, you know, questioning with the cops, said that it was strange because she had blue eyes and white people didn't frequent that area, which, you know, white chicks do be crazy. Some are called... No offense.
None taken. I think we can... but...
Yeah, so in September 2013, Al-Shabaab militants attack Westgate shopping mall in Nairobi, killing 71 and injuring 200. Also, she was involved in that attack or organizing it. Interestingly, with the September 2013 one, the claims that Lewthwaite was involved in the attack in Nairobi was like sort of fostered by the authorities, the Kenyan authorities, but it was denied by Al-Shabaab, who didn't deny her involvement in other plans. So that was a very interesting thing. I mean, at this point, everyone is looking for her, but some analysts and Al-Shabaab themselves deny her involvement in the Nairobi attack, which I think, I mean, the thing with these things, at least in my experience, is that usually when you become a big enough name, like every crime is sort of just pinned onto you because it makes life easier for like intelligence officers and counter terrorism groups, because it means that if you arrest a person, you could just nail all the crimes on them. You don't have to do the job of actually determining who did what where.
Yeah. And you've actually just reminded me of how much Africa copped it from both sides during the war of terror. During the war on terror. Yeah, you forget how much of, people just like kind of took to the battleground down there.
Yeah. I mean, it's everyone focuses on the Middle East, but Africa became a hotbed of this stuff. And I mean, you see it today as well. Like all of this that happened in the aughts and the 2010s, like that was all of the coups and counter coups you see in the Sahel is just like the blowback of that, like the sort of yeah. I mean,
because I know the coup leaders as well, like the guy in Niger, I think, or Chad. They're all like 35 and stuff, so they very much like grew up while all this shit was going on.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like as much as like jihadism it began as in the Middle East and in South Asia, it's found a very receptive audience in Africa, especially because it was a very easy to transpose Islamism and jihadism on very local ethnic grievances. For example, the grievances between herders in the Sahel, which tend to be Muslim, and farmer communities, which tend to be Christian, and the sort of conflict over resources, water in particular, and feeding ground rights and things of that nature. And when you glom on jihadism onto that sort of thing, like, it was very easy to develop groups like JNIM, Jabhat al-Nusrat al-Islam wal-Mu'mineen in the Sahel, or Boko Haram, or IS West Africa, IS Maghreb, ISM. All of these different groups, like this is all the legacy of the GWAT, right? This is all the grievances that the GWAT engendered by being so ham-fisted. And yeah, to your point as well, like, we don't really know what happened in Africa. I mean, we do, but like, it's very much understated what AfricaCom was doing, right? Like the American presence in Africa, and how much resentment that engendered everywhere from the Sahel to Kenya to Uganda to elsewhere.
Yeah, well, I remember I think it was really super on early in Trump 1, there was those special forces guys killed in Niger.
Yes.
And, and there was this whole sort of political controversy around it. And it's just like, what the fuck? Like, hang on. Why are American troops just, undergoing activities that led to their death in combat in Niger? And just, because I think, American media in particular is just so conditioned to just accepting, the role of empire and whatever the government says, that it just kind of went under the rug that, hang on, we're not at war here. Why are some of our elite guys off doing some shit over there?
Oh yeah, and I believe it was also in the Sahel where the group of SEAL Team 6 guys, or some SEALs at least, they were stationed there, and they got involved in the cocaine trafficking there. And when a Green Beret, I believe, discovered them, he was like threatening to blow the whistle and reveal that they were involved in cocaine trafficking. They sort of tried to choke him out and take pictures of him doing basically they were sexually assaulted. Do you remember that story?
Yeah. That was crazy.
Yeah, they sort of tied him down and were gonna take pictures of them molesting him so that they can use the photos to blackmail him for some reason, even though they're the ones molesting him. But then they choked him out so hard he died, and they end up getting I don't know what happened to them actually, but yeah, they killed a Green Beret because they were involved in cocaine trafficking, which again, to your point, Al, your excellent point, what the fuck are these people doing in Africa in the first place? Why are they there? But apparently they're all doing human and drug trafficking.
Yeah, and I mean, how often we just hear about, the presence of Wagner group out there, the Russian mercenaries. Obviously there's, a lot of colonial legacy of the French and stuff like that. And you'll hear American media go on ad nauseum about, all this bad stuff that Wagner is doing out there. And they undoubtedly have been. But it's well, clearly there's Americans doing the same kind of shit out there as well.
Yeah, they're just angry because Wagner Wagner is stepping in on business, right? It's turf war more than anything, really.
Yeah. And they've got all the gold connections as well. I mean, if you can traffic like, I don't know, cobalt and gold and stuff, it's probably just easier for you to do than cocaine, right?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it's easier and it attracts less attention.
Exactly.
Like whatever else, like drugs is still like seen as like this sort of boogeyman, whereas like if you're a cobalt smuggler, no one's really going to pay attention to you.
Yeah, like you could still see yourself getting thrown overboard if some scandal breaks that these SEALs are dealing all this cocaine. Although, I guess I don't know how many of those guys actually did, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot more than you'd imagine. Seth Harp wrote a book about it with the Fort Bragg cartel that I'm excited to read.
Yeah, it hasn't come out just yet. I think it's coming out very soon, though.
I'm pretty sure it just got released.
Cool. I can't wait to read it. Yeah, it's going to be fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, it is very interesting. I mean, we could do a whole other episode about it, like the degradation of American special forces into like essentially enforcers for various cartels, and I mean, it's nothing new because essentially that was the role in Afghanistan, was protecting pedophile warlords and their opium fields. Like if you assign these people to protect these warlords, right? Like it's a very small jump from them from being like, well, if we're protecting the drug supply, why don't we just take over the drug trafficking? Why do we need these assholes for?
Yeah, exactly.
Anyways, we just went on a tangent from the main topic, which I'm sure this is why you listen to this episode or these podcasts rather. But so at this point, she has an Interpol notice on her. She's probably in Somalia, but it's hard to tell. In April 2015, there's an attack on Garissa University College where Al-Shabaab killed 148 people and injured dozens more. But the method of the attack is interesting because they identify Christians to kill and let the Muslims go. I assume it's very similar to like bus attacks that ISIS used to do in Iraq, where like they'll get everyone off the bus, and if you say the correct verses from the Quran or the right hadith, you're let go, and if not, you get shot. So
they did that in Kashmir recently, didn't they? That attack.
On the one of the Paglom, I forget what it's called. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
That was the same thing. It was like, recite this verse and you can go.
Yeah. Apparently, Lewthwaite was involved in that. And as of then, and as of now, Somali intelligence, NISA, claimed that she's among the central decision makers of Al-Shabaab, part of their Shura Council, which, if it is true, is, a win for women, a win for feminism, go girl boss, etc. and so forth.
It's like the bombing in Iran recently. It was like a female pilot that everyone was like very excited to to talk about. But yeah, like, I mean, is that very likely? I mean, again, you kind of said there's like a, somewhat, it can be sometimes very easy just to blame it all on one known target. But I mean, would that kind of Shura Council ever normally let a woman in, like a Western woman? Or does she kind of get a free pass because she's a kind of notable figurehead?
I think that, I mean, it's also part of the GWAT thing to like project like, the same template onto all Islamic militants, because Al-Shabaab really is a Somali nationalist movement to an extent. I mean, it absorbs a lot of local Somali culture and it's very distinct from others, That said, I don't think she's part of the Shura Council. I don't think she's part of the, like, officially. I do think she's influential. Not just because she's a white woman, but specifically because of her previous relationship to Jermaine Lindsay, like being the widow of a Shaheed, a martyr for them. And, being involved in that attack, if she was involved, would give her a lot of leeway. But I don't think she's like, sitting in the room making decisions. I don't think so. I could be wrong. I would love to hear if I'm wrong.
If any jihadis would like to write in, let us know.
Yeah, please. If you could come onto our podcast, we will even like blur your voice and everything if you'd like. But yeah, it's interesting because I think a lot of those converts who went to join ISIS and Raqqa, like a lot was said about them, like disaffected converts from like Dusseldorf or whatever. But it seems like Lewthwaite like really paved the way as one of the first of those white converts in a jihadi group. Her gallivanting across all of Africa and various missions is quite impressive for someone who like was up until '02 was just a white British chick, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, just like getting like the language and the contacts and the theological knowledge and stuff, and as well, I imagine just even just like the terror apparatus. That's she like did a big skills acquisition. She upskilled. She upskilled hard.
Yeah, very impressive stuff. I mean, yeah. Samantha, if you're out there, we'll put you on the pod as well.
That's right. If you want to tell, God, I'm never going to get back into the US.
Samantha, we won't put you on our pod, but we'll connect you to Joe Rogan. You can go on Rogan.
That's right. He's anti-empire curious.
Yes. I mean, he's had that North Korean defector there, I think it's only fair to bring up a defector who joins Al-Shabaab.
Fair and balanced.
Yeah. So that's the story of Samantha Lewthwaite. And I hope you guys found this interesting, as I did.
So wait, she's still at large?
She's still at large. There have been claims of her dying and then she'll resurface. Like it's a very much like a cycle. But as of today, there's no confirmation of her death. She's at large. She has 4 kids that we know of. Funnily enough, she named the daughter she was pregnant with during '05 when 7/7 happened. She was pregnant with their second child, Jermaine Lindsay's second child. And she named the daughter Shahida, which means martyr in Arabic. So, really, really interesting choice given what her husband did. But yeah, she's still at large, apparently, as far as we know, somewhere in Kenya or Somalia.
Wow, yeah. She's one of the world's still most wanted terror suspects. I wonder if she's going to be like a Romanov. Like Anastasia Romanov, how people kept popping up and pretending to be like a descendant or to be her for years on to come.
Oh, yeah. That would be interesting. Like, I imagine even if she's dead now, unless they're like, and if she's dead and her body is buried, obviously there wouldn't be any confirmation. So like, I imagine just women will just pop up and be like, yeah, I'm her. How are we going to prove otherwise?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of wild. Like, you think she might, I guess, she always obviously had a, pretty busy in East Africa, but I'm kind of surprised, like, she didn't, like, pop over in the, in the pretty grim kind of ISIS-y days in Syria and whatnot. Like, you kind of think that they might have been keen to recruit her over there.
Well, I'm sure. I mean, I imagine that if she's already settled in that East Africa all the way down to South Africa, I assume her contacts don't translate well to like Syria, where she'd be essentially starting from scratch again, right?
Yeah, that's fair enough.
If you've already established your network in specifically among the Somalis and the Kenyans, and you have like reliable loyal cells in like South Africa, etc. Like if you go to Syria, all of that work is undone, and you have to rebuild your base essentially. And also, as whatever else Al-Shabaab is and whatever else ISIS is, I think ISIS would be less receptive to a white woman than Al-Shabaab are.
Yeah. And I guess there's some pretty huge cultural differences between like, your Kenya and Somalia and then like, the Syria and Iraq and places like that. I guess it was just because they went through, wasn't that period? I guess they were just trying to get Western converts, but it was more like disaffected young men from like Australia and Canada and stuff like that.
Yeah. And I mean, going back to your question earlier also about how influential she is as part of the Shura or whatever, I think her influence is also not entirely separate from her husband, because Abu Musa Mombasa is not just like a regular guy. He's one of the higher ups of Al-Shabaab. I think he's head of security. So I imagine like whenever all these like warrants about how involved she is, I'm sure her and her husband work together on that. Like I don't think it's just her.
Yeah. Hey, just a very brief tangent, but kind of related. Remember the shoe bomber Richard Wright?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like the English dude of like
the
English convert.
Because of him, we have to take our shoes off every time we go through TSA. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was Caribbean heritage as well, I believe. But I was cursing recently having to take my shoes off at the airport, and I was in a mood about it. And I was thinking, do you reckon that there's ever been like a person outside of like government that has ever had more influence on like global public policy than Richard Wright?
That's actually a really good question.
Yeah, like I reckon he's got to be up there.
Yeah, like all the fucking theater we do in the airport is because of one man. I mean, I don't know. It's because of a lot of it's him. It's the box cutter guy. It's Al-Qaeda in general since 9/11. But like, yeah, for such a, like, you know, single individual events, like where one guy needs to take over one plane, like we all have to do this now. We all have to put like our hands up in that X-ray machine. We all have to do the fucking thing. And it's humiliating. I fucking hate it, man. Like, this is the thing that like makes me more anti like Al-Qaeda and anti-America than anything else, is like, none of this works. Like, why are we doing this?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think like another way of saying it, he might be like, yeah, the most unremarkable person to have had like such a remarkable effect.
Yeah. I mean, it sucks that they don't call all the laws involved in airport security the right laws, because he deserves to have his name on them. Like, for one guy who did all of this, he deserves to have his name like live in eternity as the guy who did this.
Absolutely, yeah. And he's still with us, isn't he? He's just in prison now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, Richard, if you're listening, Samantha, write in.
Yeah. Hope everyone enjoyed this. Until next time.
Until next time.